Oh, hey there guys, Adam here. Okay, so you've just got yourself a brand new or even a second-hand Leica M Digital and you want to get started with it. Great, I'm going to help you. So, here I've got my Leica MP with 35mm f2. When you first take your new Leica M out the box, put the lens on, charge the battery and power it up by just turning your on switch around to either S for single shot or C for continuous. The screen is going to be blank. There's nothing on the screen at all. And obviously we've got to go through the menus to get things set up. If you're like me, when you first started using the Leica M Digitals, they did seem they were a little bit different to the menus in Canon, Nikon or Sony, and they can be a little bit confusing. But let's go through them. First thing I just want to point out, if you want to bring up your light meter and all of your quick information such as card capacity, battery capacity, your white balance information, lens information, just press the info button on the back of the camera, and right there, straight away, that'll bring all of that information up for you. You've got your light meter down the bottom, your file type, your card capacity, battery, white balance is all there. Great. Okay, so let's get started. With the Leica M menus, there's really two that you need to worry about. Two types of menu? Yeah, that's actually a little bit confusing to start off with, but when you first set up, you just want to press the menu button and just start going through the settings on the camera. Okay, so what do we got? First of all, I'm just going to press the menu button. This is your initial setup menu. For the most time when you're out shooting, you'll actually spend most of your time in the set menu when you want to change settings from a photographic perspective. Okay, so your regular menu. The first thing you've got is lens detection automatic. One of the really nice things about the new M's with the new lenses is that they've all got a 6-bit coding system to identify the lens. That way the camera can actually identify the lens and put in any software corrections that it thinks that lens might need according to the firmware. Now I leave that on automatic because I've got new Leica lenses. If you actually do have older Leica lenses, you might want to look at the manual system, and then pretty much every lens that Leica has ever made is able to be found in this menu, and you can choose whatever lens that you've got, and Leica will go ahead and, the software in the Leica camera will go ahead and apply an appropriate correction to it so you get the best possible pictures. So I'm just going to leave mine on automatic. You can verify that yours is selecting the right lens just by tapping your info button. So there we go, that's right, I've got a f2 35mm, awesome. So just go back to menu, lens detection automatic. Self timer, 12 seconds, I like it on 12 seconds. Light metering mode. Now Leica's actually now got two different methods of light metering now. They've got classic, which is pretty much just spot center weighted, or they've got advanced, which is more of an evaluative system. Personally, I like the classic system because I generally just like to play around with my exposure quite a lot. I'm not a big one to leave it up to the camera anyway. And the camera is faster and more responsive when you leave it on classic. Exposure bracketing, personally I don't use it. Flash sync, well I don't use a flash, I'm a natural light photographer only. Okay, so the next level down, sharpness, saturation, contrast, we can tweak that. By default it's all on standard. Really nice thing actually is this film mode style. Normally I'm not a fan of that. I tend to shoot quite flat when I'm doing stuff that I'm getting paid to with my DSLR, but here, you know, I quite like either the smooth or the vivid colour film look, because they tend to look like the colours that I want to go for in Lightroom anyway. But I'll just leave that off for now. Colour space, obviously we can choose sRGB or Adobe RGB. Check out my video on Adobe RGB. Here's the link. You can understand a little bit more about what Adobe RGB has to offer. Because this is my play camera, not so much my work camera, I actually am leaving this one on sRGB for now. DNG compression. Okay, the camera will shoot digital negative RAW if you want to, and it will apply a zip-based compression to those images. So it's not going to affect the picture quality, but it will zip them. If you want the camera to be a bit more responsive if you're shooting RAW, turn DNG compression off. Okay. Monitor brightness and electronic viewfinder brightness. Well, I don't use the electronic viewfinder on here. There is one monitor brightness. I leave that on automatic. It seems to work out quite well, and I can see what I'm doing if I'm out in the sun or if I'm inside in the shade. As I'm moving around here, you might actually see it brighten up or dim down. This is something quite new to the Leica 240 types, is that you can actually change the colour of the famous frame lines. I actually am starting to use the red ones quite a lot, because I'm finding a bit more contrast in them, particularly with the images I'm taking. If you're more of a traditionalist, I can fully understand it. You want to use red. Sorry, you want to use white, I should say. Okay. Histogram, auto review, clipping definition. Yeah, if you're familiar with a DSLR, a lot of that should make a lot of sense to you. Okay, copyright information. Obviously, we can apply our name, copyright information there, no problems. Yes, we do have a horizon that we can turn on, and it'll come up on the LCD screen. And obviously, we'll see if we're level or not. Great. Okay, the sensor cleaning mode in the camera. That's not a ultrasonic wave filter system that we might have on a Canon, Nikon or Sony. It's actually it's just a system where the camera will open up the shutter, expose the sensor, and then you can either clean it with a blower bulb, or you can wet clean it if you're game enough. It's actually not that hard, and here's a link to a video where I've actually done it, and I've had some good results from it as well. Exposure simulation when you're in live view. If you half suppress your shutter button when you're in live view, you can get a brilliant exposure simulation there. Obviously, date and time. By default, Leica turns off beeping on their cameras. That is excellent. I wish every other manufacturer would do that. I hate cameras that beep. It really gives me the USB mode. Now, USB, it's only available on the Leica M if you actually buy the grip. So if you want to USB tether, you need to do that. You need to get that. Otherwise, just leave the USB mode alone. Format SD card, pretty self-explanatory, and firmware update. Currently, it is November 2015. I'm running the absolute latest firmware for this camera, which is 2.0.2.5. I'm just going to format this card because I know I need to. Now that was a 32 gig Extreme Free SanDisk, so that formatted reasonably quickly. Alright, so let's talk about the set menu. Now I'm just going to default this. Okay, so the set menu is where most of the settings that we as photographers want to worry about are found. Obviously, we can change our ISO. Nice thing, we can actually limit the maximum auto ISO in there, but the camera's native ISO is 200. But let's just say if we set our ISO, white balance, automatic, file format. Obviously we can shoot RAW, we can shoot JPEG fine, or we can shoot RAW plus JPEGs, great. Resolution, as well as video resolution. I don't tend to shoot video on the Leica M's. Okay, now that's all in there and we can go shooting. Nothing else to worry about, or is there? Well, you know, there's loads of settings that we can play around with. Earlier on, obviously I showed you all of our different film modes that we can play around with, and you might want to have a combination of different film modes and different maximum ISOs and different color spaces as well, and you might want to play around with them for a while. And they can actually get really fiddly to change around and to get right. So that's why Leica has developed this really awesome thing called user profiles. Now they give you 4 of them, but you can actually expand that because you can say make 4 of them, send them off to your SD card, and then make another 4 and the camera will remember that. And I've programmed in some great profiles in there for the settings that I normally use. So say if I select user profile number 1, in this case I'm shooting RAW, my ISO selection in this case is automatic, white balance is automatic, and my color space is sRGB. That actually gets locked down when you're in the user mode. And the film mode is off. That is my standard. If I want to make sure I get the photograph quickly, that's the one I'm going to use. Now, if I go back into the other user profiles, so say if I select user 2, and then hit menu again, it's exactly the same thing, but now I'm shooting in Adobe RGB, and I've programmed that in. And you can also actually have different pieces of copyright information within your user profiles as well. So I recommend getting into using the user profiles if you've got a Leica M. User profile number 3, if I select that, ISO immediately goes to 400 because that's what I've actually set it to go to. And if I go back to my standard menu, it's on Vivid. I really love the combination of the 400 ISO and the vivid color film on the Leica. The way it just seems to come straight out the camera is just brilliant. You know, it looks like a really nice older Fuji film stock. The grain isn't too bad, but there's just enough grain in there to help with the depth perception of the image. That's why I like it. But my favourite one so far is the what I've got set up in user profile 4. This one, base ISO of 200. White balance again automatic. Leica does a very, very good job of that, of finding the right white balance. Selecting menu, there I've got my smooth colour film. This just looks like perfect old Kodak colour film, colour slide film. There's a nice little bit of contrast there. The colours are nice and natural. And it just has the look that I generally go for when I'm playing around in Lightroom with raw images anyway. So I guess it could just be me in that a lot of the film profiles look like exactly what I try and achieve when I shoot something flat and then play around with it in Lightroom. But in this case, it just works, and I'm getting some really nice images out of there. Obviously, if you are a black and white lover, something that's really, really great, if I just default the profiles again, something that's really great in here when we go film mode, the black and white, and then obviously we've got loads of different things that we can actually change again later on. You might want to devote 3 out of your 4 user profiles to different styles of black and white and different combinations of high ISO and low ISO black and white. You know, for me, black and white always looks awesome when it's shot at a really high ISO. I don't know, I mean, I know loads of people always try and talk about noiseless low ISOs, but I actually really like high ISO shooting. And obviously we can actually play around with as many settings as we like here. So I could say change any of this if I want, but I can just go straight back in and I can default it at any time, or I can just go back to my favorite profile, which in this case is user 4 on the Leica. Alright guys, I hope you like that. If you haven't already, check out my clips on focusing the Leica system. Also my initial look at the Leica MP Safari. When you get used to the Leica, you'll find that you're just as proficient on the rangefinder as you could be on a DSLR. I guess the question of rangefinder versus DSLR as far as usability, picture quality and all that stuff is up for debate. I'm going to be looking at that soon, hopefully. Yeah, enjoy. I hope I've given you a little bit of an insight into how the Leicas function and how they work. Cheers guys.